What is good? We're back. Got the second round of our Superflex tight end premium rookie mock for your pleasure. Now, if you haven't checked out the first one, make sure you go check that out. It went like this: Genty, Ward, Travion, Tet, Omarion Hampton, RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, Travis Hunter, Colston Loveland, Judkins, Warren, and Dart.
My goodness.
That's the first 12 if you haven't checked that out yet. So just getting you there, and we'll go check that out if you want. We did a whole hour plus on discussing these guys. So, we've just got this information, right? So the fact that anybody is out there being certain on exactly how this should be, like, for judging by the comments, y'all should just be drafting this for us because you're certain of exactly what should be going on. And it should essentially be drafted in just the order that it came off the draft board. And, so I think we're good. We don't even need to do this, but we're going to do it anyway because we're going to have conversations about it. And we're going to go through all these hows and whys, because I can tell you this right now. I've been all up in these guys analytically, film wise, and this, even in the first round, it's all there shouldn't be any consensus. It's all over the place from 2 to 9. Take your pick, choose your fighter. And the second round, very similar, man. Like, I don't have rankings together just yet because I need to have more conversation because I don't know. And I promise you, if you're listening to this, I probably did more research than you did, right? I've been in this shit the whole time, right? So, yeah, like, and I'm not saying I'm going to be right. I'm going to be plenty wrong. But that's the whole point of this, is having a conversation, figuring out where we stand, what we like, what we don't like. And again, we led the last one off the same way. We're going to lead this one off in a week or two, and especially in 2 months. There's going to be some changes, some big changes probably to these drafts. So you got to keep all of that in mind of this ever-evolving landscape. But like, for people to come out and be certain this is exactly how it should go right now, these takes are just being started to form, right? So we need to let it breathe. We need to talk about it, and that's what we're going to do. Chev, what's up?
Man, you know me, brother. Any day on this side of the dirt is a good one, but any day in the comments is not so much fun.
You love it. Get out of here.
You're right.
Big Co, what's up?
Hey, Chev.
What's up, brother?
Glad you got to see me today. I'm glad
I got a chance to.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're going to go one, two, three, back and forth here. I'm in a real rookie draft right now. We're in the end of the third round. Some surprises in the second, and leading off right at 2-1. And I'm going to tell you that I don't really even know exactly who to pick. It's hard out there in them streets right now. It's, to me right now, you have Egbuka, Golden, Burden, Harris, and maybe Higgins. I got 5 guys here that I don't feel a super strong conviction in any which way. If I said, which guy do I like the most? It's Luther Burden. I say, which guy do I feel the safest with? It's probably Egbuka, right? But all these situations now we've got to figure out, and we've got to have patience for a majority of them, which makes the easy selection here Golden, right?
There you go.
Right? That makes the easy pick. Does anybody have strong feelings about who should be this pick?
Nothing ridiculous. Nothing. So a couple things that I've been looking into. This whole we got a video out there right now where I ask you Matthew Golden or Emeka Egbuka, and we both were like, man, it's probably Matthew Golden. And then I started looking into it a little bit more. We talked about Mike Williams only having the void year on his contract after this year. Like, what if Chris Godwin doesn't recover from the terrible ankle injury that ended the season, when he was just putting up, the best number since 2019? I don't know. I mean, that might be this year's version of Rome, where it don't hit this year, but we could be standing on profit, like Rome, JSN, whatever you want to call it. We could be standing on a whole mountain of profit, getting Egbuka at the 2-1 here. When, I mean, throughout the process, he's gone from like 1-6, 1-7. We talked about him having the safest floor and all that. So I don't have a strong lean. It's not something like 75-25, but I'm closer to 50-50 on that than I was when we first discussed it.
Yeah, I like that comparison for Egbuka for the guys that took a year. But I agree with the Golden pick, right? You got a first round pick taken to the Packers who needs wide receiver help. Literally, their star running back came out and said, we need wide receiver help. And for him to say that, he wasn't really throwing too much shade, but he was like, we got a bunch of young guys. Obviously, Golden's younger, but it's a step in the direction of trying to have a playmaker out there. And, Romeo Doubs is solid when you throw him the ball. And Dontavian Wicks has been solid when he catches the ball. And, when Jayden Reed has the ball in his hands, he's the most fun player on the TV, right? Mm-hmm. But he's not out there chopping up real routes right now. So I think I like the pick that you made there, Casey, to just grab Golden there. I think the opportunity.
I didn't make the pick yet.
Okay. Well, I think the opportunity outweigh, like long game. Maybe it's just Egbuka and just call it a day. But I think the way that we are so thirsty for immediate attention and immediate gratification in our picks, we want production right away. Like, I just think that's Golden for sure. Now, like you said, Luther Burden could hit the ground running, but Luther Burden could also have, 2.5 targets a game for a year, and it wouldn't surprise anybody. So I feel like Golden. I think Golden is the right pick, but like you said, I'm not ready to hammer it home. But I would take Golden if I was you in this spot.
It's the situations are what we have to wade through, right? You liken Egbuka to maybe the JSNs and the Romes of the world. I mean, you could even put it. I might even put it closer to Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, right? Everybody's sitting back going, what'd you do that for? That was dumb. And then all of a sudden, week 9 or whatever the hell, I think it was a little later for Penix, but here comes Egbuka because Mike Hamstring Evans is got a hammy over there, and he's a little ginger, and Godwin's coming back from a big injury. All of a sudden, he's got some soft tissue thing going on, and it's McMillan and Egbuka out there. And you're like, damn, fucking Bucks nailed that. Good thing they had all that security, right?
Especially for Baker, right? Keep it in front of Baker. Go ahead, Shep.
Yes. Think about this, guys. So you got Mike Evans pretty much in a walk year. You got Chris Godwin coming back off a horrible injury. You got the only other competition you would have for targets is the running back room, and then Cade Otton, who's also in a walk year, right? And like that's it. So it doesn't seem as crazy as it sounds when we were all, just mouth open, just surprised that we took, that Egbuka went to the Bucks, which we didn't have as a landing spot for a first round wide receiver, let alone what we had earmarked for a guy that's a consensus first round pick in every single one of our ADPs month over month over month. So it just, there's more of a path there than I initially realized. And in saying that, I felt like I needed to say this, and kind of start to flesh this thought out, because it's not as easy as I would like for it to be. I know with Casey, out of pre-draft, out of all these guys, he was the highest on Luther Burden, but we have to factor in that situation. And, it might be more prudent just to wait till we get some rookie mini camp or some team, like some OTAs or something like that, to be able to make a decision like this. But we have to go off the information that we have available right now. And that information is that Matthew Golden is the first Packers wide receiver that's been drafted in the first round in 23 years. Right.
And Luther's situation, if you don't add Loveland into that mix, I might even be like, all right, hey, I can wade through this and go, all right, I'm good. But you put a top 10 draft pick in the tight end position when you already have a pretty good tight end, and you still have Swift, and you just have weapons everywhere, which is great. And I love Luther Burden, and my heart wants to just say, fuck it, I'm just going to take Luther and be patient, just like we always preach patience. But like here, it seems like, how do you want to play it? You want to take a little patience. It is the first of the second round. If you're the worst team in the league and been the worst team in the league, you probably should take Golden here, right? And then just, then you probably have a little bit more flexibility with what you want to do, right? That's the same thing as like, hey, if you're so sure that Travis Hunter is going to be the 1-2 or whatever, but if you earn the 1-2, you better be damn sure that Travis Hunter is going to be the primary always wide receiver, or you really just put yourself in quite a pickle of just being the 1-2 for many more years to come, maybe. And it has nothing to do with the talent of Travis Hunter. I'm just saying, like, when you're these are slots that are traditionally tied to players that are rebuilding or teams perennially kind of stink, because it does seem like in some leagues a lot of teams stay in the top 1 to 5, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to take Matthew Golden here, but Egbuka I've really talked myself into it. I definitely like Egbuka more than I like Matthew Golden. But I'm going to go ahead and grab Golden here. So Chev, you're up here with the next pick.
Well, I mean, give me Egbuka.
All right, let's go Egbuka here for all the reasons we just mentioned. And then Big Co, you're on the board at 103. Did you want more on Egbuka? You want a little shine here?
I don't have to have it. I'm not gonna say anything different than I said the previous two times. So we've talked about what a safe floor he had. We perceive him to have because of the fact that he's the professional. He's the professional's professional. Yeah. He does it. He might not do anything great. He doesn't have Brian Thomas type athleticism that makes you think like, oh, well, if he hits, he could be a superstar. That may not be in his range of outcomes, but I have no doubt that this guy is going to be a tremendous pro. Like we've seen it. We've seen him command targets in crowded wide receiver rooms year over year over year. And that's a wide receiver factory second to only maybe LSU. So we know that they know what they're doing in terms of grooming and developing talent. So yeah, it's easy Egbuka here. And now with me going back, this was my wide receiver 2 throughout this whole thing. So with me going back to what I thought of him before, and now him getting a landing spot where the runway could be more clear than we initially thought it was, I'm buying the dip here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, look, Egbuka could come right out and be the starter in McMillan's place. That would make sense. So like we could be just completely underselling all of this right now. Of just like, hey, Egbuka's going to come right out here and be catching balls, and I don't even know what we're all that worried about. And maybe this is a pick I should have made because I like the player a little bit more, right? And it's not that like I like Otten, and I don't ever say guys are dead or whatever, but like Otten feels like that was a big blow to your Otten stock, right?
Yeah, I mean, in a walk year too, like he's done after this year.
Yeah,
most likely.
Now, it's this tight end premium. I think Arroyo, Taylor, and Ferguson can be in a conversation here. If it is even more premium, you get up to the 7.5 or the 2. Right now, we're just talking 1.5. That's the standard conversation we have here. So Big Co, you're up at 3, 2-3.
I think the Bucks keep Cade Otton. Anyway, I think they like him, and I don't know what's going on inside those doors, but I bet they try to keep him on as cheap as possible, obviously.
Also, real quick on a sidebar, Iowa State wide receiver U. All right, that's back to you, Big Co.
All right, so obviously, Luther Burden's in the mix, and my top 3 right here for this pick right here looks like Kyle Williams, Tre Harris, and Luther Burden. So I'm weighing Tre Harris being on the field early and often with the complete ridiculous upside with that very intentional draft that the Chargers just had, the explosiveness that Kyle Williams brings to a team that really, really needs it. I think Kyle Williams, obviously this is straight conjecture and projection, but I mean, I don't see why Kyle Williams isn't a starting wide receiver for the Patriots very, very soon. Right. So, and I mean, I just don't think you take him where you take him if you're the Patriots, if you aren't very comfortable with what you talked about and what you take, the kind of plans you might have made with the guy that you haven't drafted yet and all that pre-draft process. I don't think that you on a team that, again, there was 5 or 6 teams that were very obviously intentionally having a good draft. Not that they aren't all trying, but some of them are inept and some of them are really good at this. And I think the Patriots showed that they have taken a different step under new leadership. So I feel like Kyle Williams is in play here for me. And then Luther Burden is just, did Chicago catch the fallen knife, or was it just the way the board played out and they're like, there's no chance we can pass on a guy this good and he's XYZ insurance. It could be insurance for this player. It could be insurance for that player. It could be, this is a system I want to run. And, in 12 months, we're all like, oh my God, Luther Burden was the pick, right? Because if any, like you said, Casey, to start this thing, if you act like you really know how this is working out, you just let's stop pretending like you do. Because if that was the case, we all took Bucky Irvin in the middle of the first round last year, right? Let's stop pretending like we know how this stuff works.
Yeah. Well, and a couple months ago, Chev took Travis Hunter and 1-3, and y'all lost your minds. And now it's the only choice. So let's just not pretend that this table could turn real quickly.
Love it. My RJ Harvey at 1-6 was ridiculed heavily in the comments. And then 24 hours later, Harvey's all over people's rankings and on Twitter, sitting there mid to late first round all over the place, and people telling you why it could happen. It's whatever. So do you need to put burden on your bench and wait for talent to prove out that might be a knucklehead? Or do you take somebody like Kyle Williams or Tre Harris? And I think if I had to if I had to press the button right this second, which obviously for show purposes I need to, I'm gonna go Luther Burden. I'm gonna take the upside with the play caller and the fact that he made the pick and is still very high in the second round. When a lot of people thought there's no chance Chicago comes out of those picks, the 2 picks that they had without a running back. They may have just came out of this pick with their, Jahmyr Gibbs type player. They may have just come out of there with somebody that's going to do what he wants him to do. So we shall see. I'll put Luther Burden there, but weighing heavy on me was Tre Harris and Kyle Williams.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about a Egbuka situation. I mean, Luther Burden, is DJ Moore? What if DJ Moore isn't on this team in a month or 2 months, or what if
or just 1 year? I mean, obviously,
right?
It might be a whole season, because I said the other night, like the biggest thing they got to do right now is make it better for Caleb Johnson, Caleb Williams, right? That's the main objective for the entire franchise, is to make things. So I don't know if they're in the business of jettisoning good players right this second, but maybe after a year, then this time next year, or then the off season, they make a move, or maybe they get a good offer for DJ Moore, and they're like, hey, we got options, and we're gonna. We'll take this first round pick for him, or 2 2s, or, whatever. Obviously, NFL trades are crazy. Sometimes people get, they paid him a lot of money. The Cowboys will give you a lot for him, right? The Cowboys will trade a second for a bad receiver in a heartbeat. So just, who knows what's going to happen in Chicago, but that was just like, hey, this is, again, trust the new man in charge. Yeah. Right. And that's what I'm going to do here.
You saw everyone at this point has seen the press conference with them kind of talking about, looking for guys who are going to be trying hard on everything. And last year, what you could see is some terrible body language and not try hard from DJ Moore at times, being frustrated with what's going on. And I'm sitting there going like, dog, what are you doing? Like, you can't, this would drive me fucking insane if I was coaching this team. And the draft pundits say the same thing about Luther Burden for this year, though, in college. Right. But you didn't see that. Like, I didn't see that in college, like on the field. Like, I didn't ever see it. Like, that's not what I took, that's not how I took that away. So they must feel plenty good, because if they thought that was the case, then they wouldn't have drafted Luther Burden. Right.
Completely agree.
Like, if he wasn't going to try.
If Luther drops to the third round and they pick him at 3-4 in the third round, that's a completely different conversation.
Right.
At a 2-4, 2-3, wherever you got taken, 2-6, whatever it was, like that's still very, very valuable draft capital that a team they could have gone in a couple different directions. And I feel like you said, if they weren't more than comfortable, I don't think they're taking him.
The other side of this coin is from what Caleb Williams is as a prospect and has shown at times, like, this can be a 30-point a game offense, right?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then everybody in this offense can eat, right? So just one more thing there. All right, I'm back up. No Jayden Higgins for anybody in there.
Obviously that's Chev's boy. He's not going to last too much longer in this draft, but for me, like, they got the obvious stud sitting out there, and that was like everybody's comp for Higgins. So that's a problem for me getting started. And then you got, Joe Mixon was unbelievably productive last year, right? And until outside of the last 2 games, he was a monster. So you got the running back you can lean on. Supposedly they got a bunch of different, running back, offensive line options going on. I know I made a big deal about the Laramie Tunsil situation in free agency, letting him go. And then did they trade him for something cheap? There was shortly after that, it comes out that he was terrible in the locker room last year, and that was the first say like, "Hey, get him out of here. We're going to start over. This is all about Stroud, and we got a bit." And it's like, obviously, I was thinking the best thing for Stroud is to have Laramie Tunsil, but if I've been, we've all been. I think all three of us here has been in a huddle where there's somebody not doing what he's supposed to do, and it brings the entire huddle down. So if that's the situation in the room there, then they moved on. But I think Higgins. I think he could do great. I just don't think he's going to get as much immediate burn and as these other guys. Obviously, Luther Burden the same, but he was kind of projected a lot higher. And this is kind of the Chicago is catching him there at 2.4 or whatever it was kind of the flag plant there for me.
Absolutely. I mean, so with Luther, the biggest thing in this whole process was you got to he had to go somewhere where you could foresee a path, because if they were just if somebody drafts him in the top 15, they're like, hey, you're our guy. We're going to line you up at, outside X wide receiver and just say, go win. Well, we've seen seasoned veterans, AKA DJ Moore, not have success when they try to use him like that. We saw Terry McLaurin go through a lull, and he's one of the best route runners in the entire league when they just lined him up on the right side of the formation and said, hey, just run out-breaking routes. So it's either left or right. I can't remember which one it was, but like they were just lining him up in the same spot every single time. And then his fantasy production, creator, yards per route run, all that jazz just cratered. And then they started moving him around, and then the roller coaster went back up. So
sure.
I love what Luther Burden can do after the catch, but for me, the reason that I love that landing spot and I'm okay with having it wait just a little bit longer having to wait a little bit longer is because there's something that he can do that nobody else in that offense, Rome, Colston, anybody can do. And that's create an explosive play when I hand you the ball or throw you the ball at the line of scrimmage. Like everybody else, you manufactured touches for DJ Moore. It went well. Sometimes it didn't. I think that's the one thing that day one you could see, coming to fruition for, Luther Burden, even if it's not a high volume role.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he could, I think, I don't know if Big Co touched on it maybe at some point or somebody else, maybe it was you, Chev, but like, that he's not Jameson Williams as far as explosion, but like in the way that they were kind of using and scheming Jameson Williams handoffs in the backfield, get the ball in his hands, throw it up to him once or twice. Like it might not be a ridiculous target share, but what he can do is create explosive. So I love that.
Yeah.
Big right, did you have a follow up there?
No, I think DJ Moore can do plenty if you manufacture touches at the line of scrimmage for him. But obviously, you never. These guys kicked DeAndre Swift out of Detroit, right? So like, it could be the same thing. Maybe if a couple of meetings happened as soon as Ben Johnson showed up, DJ, I don't have any idea what happened, but maybe there was a computer brought out and somebody said, hey, here, look at these 3 reps over here. What's going through your mind and how are we going to not do that again? And, who knows? Maybe Ben Johnson loves DJ Moore. Maybe they just took Luther Burden because it was too good to be true. And they're like, this guy's going to, maybe they thought that they were like, there's no chance Cowboys aren't taking him at 12. We're not even playing game. Like we're not going to see him in the second round. And then they did. So, it's like, all right, well, is he Kadarius Toney? I hope not, but that, we shall see, but it's the swing for the fences could be there.
Yeah.
Well, that is an upset of all upsets. If he has a career like Kadarius Toney, I'll have to reevaluate everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything.
Well, nobody was that high on Kadarius Toney, so I think we'll be
this is true. Not at all.
All right. Next pick, I'm going Tre Harris over Higgins. I had Tre Harris over Higgins in the pre-draft process. I had Tre Harris ranked higher than a lot of people, and I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I'm saying that that's why I'm taking him here, because I've always liked him. I think he goes right to the Chargers. We've talked about it a few times in some episodes before the draft. He goes there. He gives them you plant his ass in that X situation. I feel like he's a perfect fit for what they're going to do, and just gives you a completely different presence out there than what Ladd gives you. And I think they work really well together. You have a good quarterback. Now, We've talked about how many running attempts on the last show that could be potentially there, and that number can shrink a little bit, right? That offense grows. Running is still going to be a big part of it, but maybe we see 40 touches from the running back position kind of evaporate a little bit because we are tossing it around the yard a little bit more. It's probably going to be game script dependent a little bit for them, but I love Tre Harris, and there's no way I can pass on Tre Harris. And it's not a dig on Jayden Higgins. I think I'm more into Tre Harris here, so I'm taking Tre Harris at 204.
I love it. Auto select Jayden Higgins. You know what's going on here. You know what's going on here. Now, to be completely fair on your Tre Harris pick, they did throw the ball 500 times last year. Mm-hmm. Like he managed he threw the ball 500 times. Now, granted, how much of that was yardage lost by Quentin Johnston drops? We don't know. We can't quantify that. But I mean, 500 times, 500 attempts.
We could quantify that if we needed to, but we're not.
I mean, I don't want to spend any more time than I have to evaluating Quentin Johnston anymore. And the amount of time that I have to spend evaluating him is no time. So yeah, I'll hard pass on that. But to get to Jayden Higgins, this is my guy. I absolutely love it. I think that this is more signal than noise when it comes to the landing spot. Him going 34th overall to the Texans. The comp from Daniel Jeremiah was Nico Collins. I mean, he's a big guy that's a smooth mover, can separate. I think he wins on end breakers. I mean, he was their go-to automatic answer on third downs against off coverage at Iowa State with, a guy that's less than stellar playing quarterback in Rocco Bech. So I think that he comes in day one and he can earn targets. There's 130 targets to go around between the 2025 absence of Tank Dell and Steph Diggs' departure. So that's just off the top. Now, do I think that they're going to start taking targets away from Dalton Schultz as well? And maybe some of that pie from Joe Mixon goes away? Probably. I think they're going to open it up a little bit more. I think that's why, Bobby Slowick's no longer there. They're looking for an answer to try to, maximize this window with CJ Stroud. They addressed the offensive line to an extent with the selection of Ariante Ursery in the second round. So I think, honestly, for me, this is going to be, it's a great landing spot. He gets solidified quarterback play, and it makes the offense a touch easier because at times you saw it look like CJ Stroud just wasn't comfortable with what he's seeing, but you can be comfortable with 2 6'4" receivers on the outside that you can throw back shoulder fades to, or they can just make a play with the ball in their hand. So yeah, that to me, 2.5 right here is appropriate value. I said at the beginning, at the beginning of this whole deal, I think that, before the draft, I think that Jayden Higgins is going to be one of the biggest risers going from the back of the second round to probably the front or the middle. And, here we are. He's at the 2.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, justified. It's justified. The move up is justified. I feel like it just, that is and they're bringing in, Jalen Noel right behind it. Like you said, like this is an attack on the problems that were there last year with CJ Stroud. Like, I've obviously Tank Dell ain't playing this year. And they're like, hey, we're bringing in, and I think it's awesome they brought in the teammates, but like, I just feel like, and you bring in Christian Kirk pre-draft just to make sure you got somebody that can help move the chains. Cause it was just obviously the offensive line plays a big part in this, but it was just too often it was 3rd and 12, right? It's just not that CJ Stroud wasn't up for it, because rookie season CJ Stroud, he quickly became like top 5 in my book as far as I'm comfortable, and it's 3rd and long and we're about to get a first down, right? That was rookie year CJ Stroud, 3rd and 12. I'm like, all right, he's about to get this at a bigger and better clip than almost every other quarterback in the league. And that last year we just saw that go away. So good for Higgins, good for the Texans. I just see it as maybe a little bit slower to get started. Nothing wrong with that. And I just, I think there's some layups they might be looking to take with Christian Kirk and potentially Jalen Noel and letting Higgins develop and be behind Nico. And if he can work his way into playing in 2 wide receiver sets sooner than later, good for him. But we know Christian Kirk can, and so we'll see how it goes. I got no problem with 2.5 Higgins, and you could,
no way.
It's just not a problem at all.
Yeah, no, I'm good with it. I think Higgins probably does start in the majority of 2 wide receiver sets to start the season. I think you're hoping for addition by subtraction from that offensive line unit. If you're Houston, now they have added some pieces, but apparently maybe a little dysfunction in there. So you can't have that. You can't have that cancer in the huddle and in the locker room. And sometimes, you might lose a really good player, but the overall chemistry and camaraderie of the team, it goes up, and everybody plays better as a unit because the sum of your part, that one guy was just like, damn, and again, Big Co alluded to, we've all been there where this dude's good, but man, he's moping when things ain't going his way. He's a dickhead in the locker room, and you're just like, man, get this guy sucks. When it's good, it's great. And then he's like, man, this guy's really bringing down everybody's vibe around here.
Go ahead.
We just talked about Luther Burden and Egbuka trying to get on the field. What did the Texans do? Last year, they were over there being like, we got to play Mechie and we got to play Hutchinson and we got to play, they brought in Diggs and they had Dell, and, it was like, oh, they got this embarrassment of riches. And then all of a sudden they're and then Homeboy was missed a little time.
Nico gone. Nico.
Yeah. Right. And so we just tried to, well, how are these guys going to get, and then the Houston Texans were like, nah, we're good. We're not going to do this again. We're going to bring in Kirk. We're going to draft the 2 Iowa State guys, and we got a dog in Nico. This is what we're doing. We're,
stock up CJ Stroud.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. 206. Who you got, Big Co?
All right. I'm looking at Kyle Williams because I mentioned him last pick.
Yeah.
And being super flex, I'm looking at Tyler Shough, the potential starter for Saints. I got to look at him here in Superflex, the value that he could give us. It could go away and it could be nothing. It could be a shooting star and be nothing, but Todd McShay is willing to lay it on the line for this guy. And I will say there was that live broadcast they did at Ryan Russillo's house, and Ryan Russillo looked at Todd McShay and said, sell me on Tyler Shough, because they had a little discourse there for a second, back and forth, and and I just go back and check that out. McShay's answer was brilliant on everything that Shough had to go through. So I'm looking at Williams, Tyler Shough, and honestly, boys, I noticed, I don't want to get no pies thrown at me through the computer screens, but I'm looking at Cam Skattebo here, still my boy. So with all that being said, I think the immediate impact, obviously, I like Kyle Williams and I like Tyler Shough here. Shough could be just potentially just that quarterback too that you need, or the security blanket on. If we've all seen Joe Flacco and those guys come out of the dead in the middle of a season, and somebody picked him up off of waivers, right? Like this is what we have to do here is pick up quarterbacks that have a road to start in Superflex. So I'll take, that being said, I'm taking Tyler Shough over my boy Kyle Williams here.
I was wondering when we were going to bring him into the conversation here, because it's, I don't think anybody sitting here is like, I love Tyler Shough. I love what he did. I'm a big fan. I've been watching him all from Oregon to here to there to everywhere. But at the end of the day, very high draft capital and not a whole lot of resistance to at least get a start. And to me, depending on how you like to play it, this is easy potential value uptick when all of a sudden we're in OTAs and he's the first one taking the snaps, right? Because Derek Carr might not even play this year,
but like you said, like there ain't a lot there to keep him off the field. He's a 5-star recruit, and you think about this basically. I mean, to take it right out of the mouth of McShay. I mean, he's like, this is when Oregon was not that Oregon wasn't good this year too, but like Oregon was Studley. Right, a 5-star recruit. He chose to go to Oregon. They recruited him. He was a beast, and a couple of injuries tossed him around. And so, maybe the resume isn't there as far as production because of all the craziness that's been going on. But I mean, 6'5", 225, and an early second round pick for the Saints here, and they need it. They literally. I mean, Derek Carr don't play this year. What are they going to do? I mean, I love this pick for the Saints because if it goes bad, they're up in the beginning of the draft next year, which is what they needed, right?
Yeah, and they didn't do it in the first round, which right. They took Banks, right? That's who,
Yeah, Kelvin Banks.
Kelvin Banks. Yeah, and nobody can sit here and tell you that the Saints didn't need offensive line help. So that was a good pick, and the Saints have really butchered things and have been trying to clean up the mess since Drew Brees left. They went all in a couple different years in a row for Drew Brees, and they gave away a ton for like Marcus Davenport back in the day, didn't get anything from him, et cetera, et cetera. So they're resetting it. And I like it when there's teams that just say, hey, we don't really, like the Raiders did last year, we don't really have a starting quarterback solution. And then they get the 6th pick in the draft, but bring in, Geno Smith, but like I'd rather do that than bring in somebody like Joe Flacco, who's good enough to win you games and mess up your draft pick. Like you ain't winning nothing with Joe Flacco this year, but a couple more games than you should and have a worse draft pick than you should. So I applaud the Saints here because if he comes out and he crushes it, good, you got a quarterback. And if he doesn't, good, you about to be up there with a couple good quarterbacks on the draft board next year.
Well, it's also kind of nice because let's face it, Tyler Shough most likely, unless he's some superstar right off the rip, isn't winning you any games either. So like you can either have found your quarterback in the second round and still got Kelvin Banks.
Yeah.
Or you're picking high again, and then you're like, Rattler isn't the answer, Shuck's not the answer, so we're gonna pick again. So I don't mind the stab here by the Saints, and kind of how they're playing it. Like, look, we just saw Drake May basically be like, yeah, no, this dude's good, but he's not winning the Patriots any games because their team stinks, right? So. And he might have won him a couple extra games, and then Joe Milton probably cost him a spot at the end of the season in the draft.
So a couple things on Tyler Shough. One thing I wanted to point out is he had by far and away the highest RAS score. Now, not all the quarterbacks tested, but I don't think very many of them. We had very many guys in consideration in the first two rounds that ran 4.63. I mean, he had a 9.53 RAS score. So we might be looking at some rushing upside. Like this could be a fun pick, right? Like this could be fun if it hits. And I think that we need to give that a little bit more credence. I'm not saying he's the answer. I'm not saying that the Saints won't re-roll in 2026, but here at 2.6 and super flex, why not? The team told you they believe enough that he's probably going to have some sort of insulated value at least for this year. And if not, you can get in while the getting's good. He does something cool. You flip him, boom, bam, slate's clean. So if you can add, you can get a second plus for him. That's a win.
It's just so hard to get one. He could be in a, if he's starting and they got a, obviously, Kellen Moore comes over there. If they get a couple things dialed up, if, some receivers can stay healthy for a change, if all of a sudden they're doing they got a month or 6 weeks into the season, they're like, dude, this guy's all right. And we got a quarterback. And if he's just not terrible, there's going to be some dynasty value there. And if he's almost good, then in a super flex, you just can't trade for a quarterback without giving up a quarterback. So he could be part of your stepping stone package to get something done.
Oh yeah.
I like it. All right, boys, we're halfway through the second round and we ain't seen a running back come off the board. So a little different than what we were seeing pre-draft, right? But what we saw is a lot of the running backs that we like all got pushed down the board a little bit, which we thought could be a big possibility. And that's what happened, right? They either went into tenuous situations or they're, fourth, fifth, sixth rounders. And so we just got a bunch of wide receivers coming off the board. And now we got the third quarterback essentially, which, I think a lot of times was going fourth, fifth round, even though they were telling you the whole time. So nice to see Shough up here. Wanted to bring him up earlier, but glad he got on here. All right, I'm up here at the 207. I just faced this choice in an actual tight end premium league. This comes down for me. There's some other guys that I like here, but comes down to me between Kyle Williams and Arroyo for me. Not a huge Mason Taylor guy. Could be completely wrong about that. Went to the Jets. Could be great situation that he lands in here and just has an easy path to some easy targets and looks really good with it. Got the capital, all that. And then, looking at Kyle Williams here, again, going to the Patriots, I think, they have some faith in him. I like the tape. Chev, we've late in the cycle here. We've talked a lot of Kyle Williams. I'm going to take Arroyo here.
Okay.
For two reasons. One, I got to let Chev get Kyle Williams at 208. Is that where you got him in the other one?
That's the one.
All right.
Not in blood.
But I did just take Arroyo over Kyle Williams. I was trying to trade back up to get I had like a pick 6 rounds or 6 picks later or 5 picks later, trying to trade back up to get Kyle Williams and Arroyo, so I had to make that choice. But regardless, like Arroyo, uber athletic, it's tight end premium. He's got the good draft capital. And I actually kind of really like the landing spot. Like they don't have an outside guy there. I'm not saying he's going to be an outside guy, but they got a lot of the Spider-Man memes and people pointing at each other. And the other guys that they have, I really like. I like Horton. I think Horton can go right out there and give you your outside presence. They took Ricky White late. I think he can kind of sit behind Cooper Kupp and JSN, and I like everything they did. But Arroyo just comes in here, and then on top of that, you have a Niners guy and Kubiak who spent a lot of time in that situation. You know what the head coach wants to do. He wants to play big personnel and run the ball, but also comes from Baltimore Ravens and had been around that situation with some tight end play. And Arroyo just gives you something you don't have on that team, some size, some speed, can do a couple different things, can go get you some 50-50 balls down the middle, or just with raw athleticism, smash that seam. So I really, really like the idea of Arroyo here. I think the landing spot was really good. I think it gives Sam Darnold a nice big target in the middle of the field there to go make easy layup throws. Now we got to have some protection, right, for Sam there. But the Seahawks have been banged up across the offensive line. They do have some good players on the offensive line. They just got to stay healthy. So I just think that play action game with Kenny Three Sticks and Sharps. Now you add Martinez, like you got a 3-headed monster. That's a lot of fun. That has some versatility there. I think Arroyo just gives you a different flavor that you don't have. That could be just a big focal point in this offense as we get further and further down the season. So I'm going to take Arroyo here.
Me or you, Chev? What you got?
Man, I just, ever since the Senior Bowl, when we saw his move. Well, you saw it a little bit in Miami. This is the first season that he's gotten full-time snaps. Now, this is a 4-star recruit who was the 4th tight end in his class, like in the nation, coming out of high school, plays as a true freshman, then tears his ACL. And, you go back and look at what the Seahawks GM said. I wanted to pull it up to make sure that I wasn't hearing something that he didn't say. Okay. And he says, if he didn't miss time in college, his talent is like a top 15 pick. He said he's there. He could run the entire route tree, and he could line up as an X receiver. So this is who they wanted. This was their guy. This wasn't like well, we're going to take somebody because, and it's not a Jalen Milroe situation where he said that they told, the Seahawks told him he was the best quarterback in the draft, and they immediately came out and they were like, no, we didn't. We didn't say that. So I love the pick here. I mean, I got him at the 212, I believe, in in a tight end premium league. And I was man, happier than a hog in slop when that happened. So I believe in the talent. I think this is going to work out really well. I mean, Noah Fant can't stay healthy and has never produced to the level that his talent would allude to. So yeah, I love the pick there. What's put on the board for me. Let's not even waste any time here.
I think Big Co's up.
Wait.
No.
So
yeah, it's me.
This is the season for, coaches to say how great their second round pick is, but he's not wrong that Arroyo looks like he could have been a top 15 talent. Like I saw a tweet the other day that said Arroyo's own field speed was taken at like 21 point something, or I don't know if it was 22 point something or 21 point something, but it was the same first 2 digits. The point is Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy was like 0.3 faster in top speed. Take that for what it's worth, but that just shows you what kind of blazing huge man we got running around in Arroyo. This is obviously talent, and this, kind of like a Tyler Shough potentially, like talent versus production. He got hurt. He moved around. It's not easy for tight ends in college to find a good system anyway. I think he had like 40 something career catches, right? So this is, take the GM's word for it. This is our, 250-pound gazelle, and we love him. And they don't have any big weight carrying receivers other than some rookie that they just brought in, so obviously the upside is there, and it's a good stab in a tight end premium league at 2.7. I can't hate on it at all. It just, this is like, he got 40 catches in college, but he could be a monster if things work out for him. If it plays out correctly, this could be a great pick.
All right. 208 Kyle Williams for Chev, Door, Cam Ward, 2025.
Cam Ward 2025, baby. And I mean, we were so close. We were so close to getting the reunion that I talked about that, made the video from a few weeks ago with Matt Kelly go viral. Like, and now we get the capital. We get him in a landing spot with an ecosystem that's just open for opportunity. Outside of Stephon Diggs, I mean, we all love Kayshon Boutte, but I mean, we got to let the draft capital talk here. This is a new organization, and the Patriots don't have a great track record with drafting wide receivers. But when you turn that Kyle Williams film on, and if you just want to go watch the highlights, this is one of the most fun players in the draft. Great after the catch. I mean, you can do it. You can line him up, position versatility. He's one of the guys that absolutely torched Travis Hunter at corner. So I'm a big believer. I was late to the party, but I tried to put you on game ahead of time. And now in 3 of the drafts that I've done so far, Kyle Williams has gone at 2.6 in one of them, 2.9 and 2.12. So he's in this second round range. You could tell me that I'm crazy, but I'm telling you what's actually happening in real time in real drafts. So yeah, give me Kyle Williams right here. I think the opportunity is right. And, just like the Texans did with CJ Stroud, they are, the Patriots are surrounding their young rookie quarterback, first rookie contract quarterback with talent. So yes.
Yeah.
I like it. Love it.
All right. 209. Big Co.
I'm taking Cam Skattebo. Still in love with the production and just the fact that, I mean, he goes to the Giants and hope we got an up and coming situation here. Daboll tries to save his job, and there's a lot of talk about the GM Shane after, the hard knocks last year and all that stuff, but they draft the DN like they're supposed to in the top of the draft and don't do anything crazy. They take a potential stud, hope that the medicals check out on his ankle. I don't think they draft him there if it doesn't. Even if he does, even it's like, hey, we got to have surgery. He's going to miss a year. Who cares if he's as good? If he's potentially Von Miller, you take him anyway, right? So I was a big fan of the late round running back that they got last year. What's his name, Casey? Why am I
Tracy?
I was a big fan of taking Tracy in rookie drafts last year. Casey and I got him in a FFPC league for basically nothing, maybe in the 4th round or something. And Tracy did nothing to disappoint last year. Absolutely zero to disappoint. But I just feel, I mean, I like what Skattebo brings to the table, and injuries happen. I'm not saying that I expect Skattebo to come in here and take his job right away. It's not impossible, but they're both good running backs. But I'll take a running back at this point in the draft and be happy with my absolutely crazy receiving profile from a 215-pound running back that lit college on fire last year and carried his team through the playoffs and it almost made it to the championship game.
I mean, do I need to elaborate? I've talked about this time and again. Like, the only reason that we're not more serious about Cam Skattebo is because he's white. Like, let's just be serious here. If he did what he did, like it's very similar to what David Montgomery did out of college. I mean, he forced what would have been, I think, the second or third most forced missed tackles in 2024. And it's around the same range as David Montgomery coming out of Iowa State, not Ohio State. So, I mean, he's extremely elusive. He's really hard to tackle. Does he have long speed? No, but he ran a 4.65. David Montgomery ran a 4.62. I think that you're going to see probably a better version of Cam Skattebo and, in this Giants offense than you did even at Arizona State if he gets an opportunity and he's able to win the lion's share of the work. He's probably a better early down runner than either Devin Singletary or Tyrone Tracy. And I think he has the receiving chops akin to a Tyrone Tracy. So yeah, he could win this job. There's an opportunity. I mean, there's an opportunity here. Now, you don't want to be going and buying running backs on bad offenses too often. But I mean, if he ends up with the lion's share of this work, then that's a steal here at 2.9. So yeah, I love the pick. I like Cam Skattebo a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, we both gave a ton of flowers to Skattebo throughout this whole process. 2.9 is late enough here to come in and get Skattebo. What I would disagree on here is that I like the thought of some early down banging. we know Skattebo could pick up 10-yard runs. He was tied for 10th, I think, in the NCAA last year, right? But what we unfortunately have is the big thing that he had going for him is he is such a good receiver, and the guy who is your starting running back right now is a converted wide receiver. So that's the part that I feel like hurts Skattebo's chances to be productive for you in the situation moving forward. And there was, Fred Warner put Tyrone Tracy as the top 5 hardest guy to tackle in the league in running backs in the league year one, right? So I don't think, we're coming in here and saying that Skattebo's just going to walk in and take his job, because I don't think that's happening. And then he has to take Devin Singletary's job, right? Which is he's a professional running back, right? So that's that's the only drawback, right? Like what Skattebo's receiving profile is absolutely ridiculous. It's so good. Unfortunately, the guy who is in front of him is a converted wide receiver. So without that much production.
Never doesn't have that receiving production. Even as a receiver out there where he's supposed to be catching passes, didn't do as well as Cam Skattebo. So I like it. I like the Skattebo hick here. I think, ordinarily in another draft, like we just got a bunch of good running backs up here. I think with the rushing and the receiving profile, normally we'd be losing our minds. But like we just got, 6 good ones in the first round up here already. So
right. He got pushed down by a deep class, and I feel like I said, I just don't feel like he gets the credit he deserves for being, a quality running back. So, I like that pick a lot right here.
Who's up?
That's me. I'm gonna go. So to me, this is I'm looking at Dylan Sampson here. If we can talk about Skattebo, we got to talk about Sampson, who's a better athlete, maybe even better in short yardage. The metrics would maybe tell you that, SEC short yardage was all Dylan Sampson's. Super young, really good player here. Goes to Cleveland, so he's in a situation where he's struggling to take the carries to be the guy in an offense. So he's splitting carries. It's Jack Bech as well here. A favorite of mine in the process. Comes in, goes to the Raiders. It's kind of wide open over there. They don't have a guy who's, really that alpha dude as far as the wide receiver position over there. Geno's a very solid quarterback, so he can get it out to him. We all love Jacoby Myers a whole lot here, but Jack Bech gets good capital. He's out there. And then, to me, I'm putting Jalen Royals up on the pedestal here. I think going to Kansas City, reviving this offense to a 30-point-a-game offense is something that is about to happen this year. Hollywood on a 1-year deal. They like to slow play the rookie anyway. So I think by the end of the season, you might be seeing Royals in the situation. Just an outstanding. Yeah, we talked about it. Austin said it at one point, and then you and I couldn't get over it. He's Rashee Rice in this class, and there he goes. And the guy who took Rashee Rice and turned him into a top 5 receiver. Go ahead and take Jalen Royals. I think he's still got to be in there. Didn't quite get as good a capital as some of the other guys. I like him more as a player than Jack Bech. I think the situation could potentially be better than what Dylan Sampson's getting. You could certainly look at Mason Taylor here. I think you could certainly look at Terrace Ferguson here. I think you could look at Harold Fanning here. Running back wise, I don't like. There's not that many more that I can say confidently that I want. I guess you could say Tuten. I'm just not. Yeah.
You tell yourself a story about this Liam Cohen fellow who might be taking the league by storm with his offense that we thought was Dave Canales'. Who knows whose it was? So I think you got to be looking at Tuten here. But I like everything you said. Jack Bech might be coming in there and playing some power slot too. Who knows? And for Jack Bech, for me, like the Raiders, like they have a top 3 playmaking, top 5, whatever you want to say, Genty is before he even touches the field. So you got a top 3 or 5 playmaking running back, and you got a top 2, you could say 1 playmaking wide receiver or tight end, right? So obviously that you could say the defense has no chance of trying to keep up with Jack Bech because they're going to have to send 11 guys after the running back and the tight end. So Jack Bech could be running wide open all day long. But I don't hate any of those running backs you just laid out there, Casey. Or like you said, Mason Taylor could be the answer. Let's not pretend like we know the answers right now. Just take your best shot here, Bubba.
Yeah, I mean, I think Noel's got to be in there. I think what you take a bit of a back seat here because you got a big guy out. Just the pecking order seems to be a little small, but I mean, things could happen fast. Noel's probably like the freakiest guy left here that could just absolutely explode from the measurables to what we saw happen on the field. And it could be a really big time offense. So this is a really, really tough spot here for me. For me, this would be a prime. I'm trading back. I'd trade back after Kyle Williams. I'd be wanting to trade back a little bit here, and be okay with, and I'd be trying to trade up previous to that to try to get all those guys that we took from, 2-1 to 2-8 there. And then probably looking at trade backs and just letting kind of the board fall to me. I'm going to take Jack Bech here.
Damn.
Sorry, man.
Great draft capital. Great draft capital in a wide open wide receiver room.
I just love the way he plays, man. I don't want to comp anybody to Puka Nacua, but that physicality and style, I feel like that's a very Pete kind of player there. Just fits into the ecosystem of how they want to do business. And not that Pete's going to be there for a long time, but maybe Chip's the guy in waiting and Chip's down. So I'm going Bech. 211. Who you got, Chev?
Okay, so I took Jayden Higgins earlier. That's the only thing that's stopping me right now from just doubling up on the Texans wide receivers here. I'm going to do something a little off the beaten path here. I'm not a huge Mason Taylor guy, but it's hard for me to get to this point in the draft and say, well, this is tight end premium. He's a 42nd overall pick. This is a noted good Levi's player, good genes. And then, you have the success that Justin Fields had, in Chicago with Cole Kmet.
Yes, sir. Give it to him. That's exactly right.
You can't ignore that. I mean, it's really difficult here because I'm not a Mason Taylor guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, in a tight end premium league, you can't have enough good draft capital tight ends, even if it doesn't hit immediately. I mean, Dylan Sampson's still here. Bhayshul Tuten, he's getting steamed up. In 3 of the 4 drafts I think I've done so far, he's gone in the second round, closer to like 2-6 than he is 2-12. So he's getting steamed up big time because people are buying into the Liam Cohen narrative that you touched on earlier, Co. So this is tough here, but I think I'm going to go Mason Taylor here. I'm going to take Mason Taylor off the board right here. I'm going to buy into the narrative about, for one, Anaya Smith is the only other. That's the only other pass catcher they added, and he can't catch. So, I think Mason Taylor, if he goes somewhere where they actually feature the tight end, he's competing with guys who are first round talents and now future superstars in the NFL at the wide receiver position at LSU. So he never really gets to break out. And then Garrett Nussmeier is not. He's not great. So
people are going to be mad about that. People love Nussmeier.
You can love sitting on a cactus and spinning. That don't make it right. To get to, Mason Taylor, I think that, with some of the confirmed testing that we have, him being a little bit more athletic, him showing at the Senior Bowl that he dominated in red zone drills at the Senior Bowl. So I think that there's a path for him to have some touchdown efficiency. And again, it's Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and who else to catch passes for Justin Fields?
Lazard.
Boy, do I hate that answer. So yeah, give me Mason Taylor.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right.
I like it.
I just want to touch on the Tuten thing real quick, which is, I can't give Cohen credit just yet. And it could be the wrong decision right now to say that like he's the reason that they got Bucky Irving, right? Like I don't know who's responsible for bringing in Bucky Irving and finding the talent and putting him on the field and saying he's undeniable, right?
It doesn't have to be that he don't have to be the guy that drafted him, but he was the guy that was calling the plays and designing.
I mean, he kind of does need to be the guy who drafted him, because that's what you would be relying on as the talent scout to fit what you're doing, right? So that's, to me, to make Tuten be this high or like the middle of the second, like right now I'm fine with taking Tuten, but like to say the middle of the second or early second, like you see him in some spots, I'd have to feel more like, I've seen Ben Johnson do it time after time after time here now. And so if Ben Johnson's taking somebody, I kind of know if he's got a role of playing, I feel comfortable with that. And I could stand on that. Sean Payton, we've seen it year over year. Kyle Shanahan, year over year. I'm not quite ready to quarterback wise. I'll give Cohen some flowers for sure. Running back wise, I'm not quite sold just yet that I'm like, yeah, every running back he's got gold.
Yeah, we don't know that. We don't know that yet, but he's a rising star in the league apparently, and that's the way the Jags treated him. And I don't know I don't know what's going to happen over there, but I like the idea of an absolute speedster that was drafted early fourth round. Like, this is the thing, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Like, the quote unquote should definitely be in the third round running backs. Like Skattebo and Tuten, and Tuten was rising. Like, he wasn't up there like Skattebo was anyway. But like those guys, like you get picked at 4.2, 4.3, 4.4. I mean, like that's basically the third round in a draft where there's already been 10 running backs taken, right? Not everybody's going to be lining up to take those backs, even if they're the best player on the board, one team after another, because some teams are just trying so hard to fill a need. I got to take this offensive guard, even though I really don't want him, but I got to have him, or I need to take this defensive tackle here because we need some depth and we get to do this and we got to, so I think the early fourth round draft capital for Tuten is basically treat that like late third and like, hey, he's a day two guy. I mean, obviously he wasn't, but you understand what I'm saying there. Like, he's basically a late day two guy here. We're talking about a handful of picks to change that narrative.
That doesn't make any difference for me, really. That's semantics. We're talking, if you got picked at 102 as opposed to 104, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, yeah, but I'm not talking about 102 versus 104. I'm talking about an early enough pick to a running back on a team that, hey.
No, that's what I'm saying. 102 and 104, those are the draft slots. 102 is the last pick in the third round, and 104 is where Tuten went.
Oh, the 100. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
that's what I'm saying.
Right.
But there's a threshold there, and there's a lot of people in the spreadsheets that says if it's a day two running back has this much more chance to hit versus day three running backs. But what I'm saying is, like, he's not going to be in that day two threshold category on those sheets because he was taken in the fourth round, but he was taken very, very early fourth round to a team who, there's instability there at best in running back. And I think ETN could come to life, and I think he could be amazing. And it seems like he's still going to be on the team.
He was RB3. He is amazing. They just misplayed him. Like, he might not be there, and he's not going to be there in a year. So, and
not going to pay him.
Been good. Right.
But so Tank Bixby's been up a days, but Tank Bixby has looked great, and he's been looking not so great. So, I mean, I think the stab at Tuten, and you just, if you're a Liam Cohen guy, and I mean, you're not going to be like, hey, I've been following Liam Cohen for 15 years, because we haven't. But he's that new shiny object right here with the offensive coordinator stuff turned head coach. And there's nothing wrong with following that path to give it a shot at 212 in your rookie draft.
For sure. I'm more than fine with taking Tuten after, X amount of these. We probably, like, the 208 guys went off the board. Take your shots on Tuten.
Mm-hmm. It seems like to me, like, there's a little bit less in the way for Tuten right this second than, like, say you're Dylan Sampson, who's got to come in and play behind Judkins right away, right? Like, Judkins drafted to be the workhorse, and obviously who knows what happens with injuries. Week 2, Dylan Sampson could be the every week starter for the rest of the year. We've been playing this long enough to know that. All right, so I mean, I'll take Tuten at 212 as a dart throw in the running back position in the end of the second round. But I got no problem if you want to listen to Casey and say Jalen Royals. I got no problem with that. And, I mean,
it's Noel, Royals, Tuten for sure. Sampson, no problem.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to, I think right this second, given what happened and where it happened, like I'm not taking Jalen Milroe yet, but I wouldn't be mad if you did and just put him on the bottom of your bench and wait for anything to happen in Seattle. So I told you before, I'm going to be taking it. Now, he didn't sneak into the first round like some people said he might, and he didn't go in the second round either. So it's obviously, if everything goes right in Seattle, then, Jalen Milroe doesn't see the field. But it can happen. And if it did happen, it would probably be really good fantasy football points for a week or three or however long they needed to put him out there for. So I'm going to be, especially if some of my Superflex teams could really use a quarterback on the bench or a taxi squad or down there somewhere that could produce a type of rushing floor and ceiling that Jalen Milroe could. I'm going to be drafting Jalen Milroe as early as I can after there's, the logical picks are made.
Yeah.
I'm coming around on this, boys. I'm coming around on this Jalen Milroe thing. Now I've said some not so nice things about him as a quarterback, but I read some of his pre-draft stuff, and it was talking about like he broke down his weaknesses, the things that he's working on in his game to the evaluators during an interview. And it's like, hey man, I know that these are things that I have to get better at. And if he's like, you're not worried about telling us that? He's like, no. And if anything, it should make you feel more comfortable to know that I know.
You should already know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, and it would be insulting to you to assume that you don't watch film and see that the things that I could work on. So for me, I would be okay with him in this range. I do think, we've seen a guy very similar to him in Malik Willis come in and have success as a spot starter. His legs are obviously the belle of the ball here. We're hoping that he comes in and he immediately can give you some production on the ground. That's where his value is going to ride, like just gonna come from. So I think that, I wouldn't mind going Jalen Milroe right here. I mean, going Bhayshul Tuten is perfectly fine because of the things that we've talked about with Liam Cohen, whether or not it's, here's the thing with Liam Cohen, he prefers to use a bell cow back going all the way back to his time with the Rams where Cam Akers broke out, and then the way they used Ray Davis at Kentucky to the way that they were using Rachaad White at the beginning of the year, and then, mixing in Bucky Irvin, but Bucky Irvin was just so much better that they had to insert him into the starting lineup. They want to use one guy. Now, if that guy is Travis Etienne, what does that mean in 2025? Probably not going to be great for Bhayshul Tuten, but right. Travis Etienne's on a 5th-year option.
Right.
Tank Bigsby can't catch passes, and Liam Cohen's screen game is one of the best in the entire league. So there's a path for Bhayshul Tuten to be. Say it again.
So he also seems to fumble in inopportune times.
Yeah. He does have the old fumbleitis going on. So I think that Bhayshul Tuten, there's definitely a path here, and you could talk yourself into, hey, I'm getting a Liam Cohen back the back end of the second round, and that's almost that's found money.
You talk about that screen game. They took LaQuinn Allen late. That's best pass catcher outside of maybe Woody Marks in this draft.
God, oh my God, bro! How did you fit a Woody Marks reference in here? I have not mentioned Brashard Smith one fucking time, and you're gonna hit me with some Woody Marks propaganda this late into the episode. Well done, well done by you. I respect.
Before we go,
if
it all breaks right, Jalen Milroe will be way more valuable than Tuten. It's way more likely that Tuten returns value on this pick in year one.
Yeah, well,
and exactly. running backs get hurt often and more often than any other position. Like, so the likely, quarterbacks have been getting a little bit more nicked up lately. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks starting games the last couple of years. So if the quarterback, if Jalen Milroe comes in and gets starts, it's going to be a lightning rod of value. It's going to be a lightning rod of fantasy points, but it's more likely Tuten gives me value sooner. But I could easily have that be Milroe right there and be completely happy with it.
Yeah, I don't mind Milroe late second if you want to hang out for a minute. It's
going to make me feel good. It's going to make me feel good to see Milroe on some of my Dynasty Superflex benches, right? It's just going to help me sleep at night.
Yeah, he's most likely going to be in the 3rd, for me, I think, and then I haven't seen him go yet in the 2 drafts that I'm in the second.
That's fine. Yeah, I talked about 5 guys that you should probably take ahead of him. It's just, I don't want to be the guy sitting. Right. I don't want to miss him. Right. If it happens and it takes off, I've been talking about Milroe for months, and I don't want to be the guys like, I told you so, but he ain't on my teams.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be trying to scoop him up.
Noel, Sampson, Manor, Fannin, and Ferguson all still on the board. Royals still on the board. So we got 5 or 6, and then Milroe on the board. We got a handful of guys, and then at some point in the 3rd round, you got to start considering taking Shedeur Sanders, right? I mean, I know I am. Like, once we get a good chunk of these guys out of the way, I'm still fine with taking, like, everything I thought about Shedeur Sanders is still the same. He just didn't get the draft capital, and it's still open, right? The situation's still open.
Very much so. I mean, there's a handful of guys I want to take first, but after everything, definitely. My man's already in Cleveland, ready to get to practice. He's a week early.
Yeah.
I mean, so if he can play, which, I mean, we've seen him play. If he can play and he's gonna treat it like a professional, now you can choose whether or not you buy into the things that they said about him not being prepared for the interviews. That's the biggest red flag for me over anything else. I could give a shit about people thinking that he wears chains and he's too brash. He's a fucking rich kid that's acting like a rich kid. Like,
also Deion Sanders' son, the most brash human being on planet Earth.
So why are we acting surprised he acts this way? My biggest problem is that he showed, like, the rumors are that he showed up and he wasn't prepared for some of the install sessions and like some of the interviews, and he didn't respond well. That gives me a little bit of pause, and that would explain why he slid so much. But as far as like his personality and stuff, like, bro, all quarterbacks feel that way. It's just some of them know better than to say it out loud all the time.
Right. All right. Well, me and Chev will be back with some late round guys, because there's plenty more guys to talk about here that we're going to target. So that'll be an episode here. So make sure you keep it locked and loaded. But I did just want to, before we get out of here, real quick, I think we talked about this when we weren't all mic, or maybe we did to begin it, but like, lot of chatter from our last episode about, oh, you guys are idiots. I can't watch this anymore because this guy went there, that guy went there. Like, and everybody wants to sing about draft capital and this and that. Like, bro, nobody's talking about Pat Bryant and banging the table for him in the 2nd round because he got 3rd draft capital. Nobody's pounding the table for Savion Williams right now going in the 2nd round in these spots that we just talked. Nobody's pounding the table for, even Jalen Noel right now, who got okay draft capital, but everybody loved him beforehand. Like, I don't see a whole lot of people really standing on the table and being like, you got to take Noel here. Who's taking Tesla? Right. Mm-hmm. And if we're just talking about draft capital and that's the only thing that you care about, then every year we do this. There's guys that get draft capital that nobody gives a fuck about. And a lot of the times you were right to not give a fuck about them. But that's the same thing. We go back to talking about these guys in the later rounds that you shouldn't really give a fuck about those. But there are a certain couple of guys that you should give a fuck about in the later rounds. And those are the ones that we did the research on. And we're saying, hey, we like these couple of guys. And, that was the whole Kyle Williams argument that we got in with Matt Kelly there. So, just wanted to kind of bring that up. Like, it seemed like a lot of people just want you to draft in order that they got picked because of the draft capital. And it's like, man, there's a lot of silly parts and pieces of this. Like, the guy in front of Omarion Hampton's a 1st round running back. Look at that. You know what I mean? With who's in LA right now with Najee Harris. I know everybody hates him, but I mean, he's got 1st round draft capital. Travis Etienne's got 1st round draft capital. Bhayshul Tuten's just taking his job, apparently. You know what I mean? Like, this is we kind of pick and choose on certain things, right? But that's
we're definitely picking and choosing. That's for damn sure.
And I get it, man. Draft capital is a great indicator. That's also common sense, man. The NFL team said, hey, we like this guy over this guy, 3 rounds difference. Yeah, you got to bump some stuff around. But again, don't see a whole lot of people pounding the table for some of these guys that have 3rd round capital, that the percentage changes this much, like Big Co was alluding to. But you're not a whole lot of people giving those guys love that they got to be drafted end of 3rd, 4th round. So anyway, anything else?
Keep it recently current. Like, just a couple years ago, right? We took JSN was the first wide receiver off the board for his rookie draft class. And then, like, 2 months later, everybody said he's the worst player ever. We hate him. He sucks. And then Casey's like, no, give him a chance. And then this year, what is he, a 3rd round startup? Right. Mm-hmm. So everybody that says how right they are, Quentin Johnson goes that year ahead, and Zach Charbonnet goes in rookie ADP that year in 2023 over Achane, and everybody took Mingo over Rashee Rice. So, like, let's not pretend like we have any idea what's going to happen here, boys.
Yeah.
That is nasty.
Right. We do appreciate you guys. We love you all. We say some of these things just because, eventually you got to defend yourself a little bit. And I don't even really care if you're going to just say, hey, I can't listen anymore because you didn't draft Hunter where I think you should, or Hampton has to be the 102. And it's like, man, this draft class is, especially that first round, and we just did it in the second round. The first round right now, if anybody is telling you they for sure know the answer, they're full of shit. You shouldn't be that confident right now that you know this exact order and exactly how it should be. And 2 to like 9 or 10 or even 11 in tight end premium is choose your fighter, man. Like, yeah, I could make an argument for putting any of those guys where you want. Like, Harvey could easily be the 1-2 in point scores of all of these running backs for the first 2 years, right? Really easy. We could see that path happening. And you could say, well, he's 24, so you don't want him. And it's like, bro, when that guy's scoring a bunch of points and you got a good team, you're going to trade me a whole lot for RJ Harvey, right? And I'm using him as an example because he's old and people are like, well, you're not playing Dynasty right if you're taking a 24-year-old running back in the middle of the first round. And it's like, bro, you're getting way too deep into the shit. If that guy is scoring top 5 RB points and I need to move him, somebody's going to pay me for him. It might not be you because you're so upset about age, but like some people want to win, right? Some people don't care that, hey, the market value isn't going to be as high as it could possibly be because Marion Hampton is X amount of years younger, right? That's it. Some people aren't going to care because they've got $250 on the line, $500 on the line, $1,000 on the line. So they're going to want the guy who's scoring points. And I'm not saying that RJ Harvey is going to outscore Marion Hampton. I pushed back on Big Co a little bit in that episode, but I understand what he's saying in those situations. So I think sometimes we get so caught up in just a couple of years ago, you couldn't even draft running backs. It had to be wide receivers. And now you can't draft Ted ahead of some of these, you know what I mean? So we again, pick and choose a little bit. So I'll get off my soapbox here. All
right, let's do it again later, boys.
All right. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Peace.